A warm welcome to another live edition of the Magpie Circle, the last one of the regular season, but of course not the last one because we will be in the playoffs and we will be dissecting who we're going to be playing, when we're going to be playing. Welcome tonight to the club's all-time leading goal scorer, Leslie Brad. Les, how are you?
Good evening, Paul. Good evening, Chloe.
Good evening, Les. Chloe, welcome back. All good?
Yeah, all good here. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, good. And presumably all went well in the ticket office on Saturday.
Yeah, all went very smoothly. And obviously, if we do get a home fixture, everyone was sat in their seats. So it went well. So hopefully we'll be allowed the same allocation again.
Okay, great atmosphere. So on the show tonight, as a result of Eastleigh only drawing with Altrincham last night, it takes some of the elements of mystery away from who will be playing and where in the playoffs. We will be talking about that at the top of the show, previewing the trip to Bromley, 12:30 kickoff, remember, on Saturday. We'll also be taking a bit of a trip down memory lane. You're way too young, Chloe. Eric Pavis, one of the most successful chairmen in the history of the club. It's the 4th anniversary of his passing. We'll be asking for a few stories from Les, who certainly went a long way back with Derek to when he was starting out as a businessman in the city of Nottingham. Sad news as well about another Notts County supporter, Roy Prentice. The name may not be instantly familiar, but I think everybody will have seen that very emotional video that the club did when he was in his early 90s, suffering from dementia, and they took him out onto the pitch. And at the age of 90, he took a penalty and the ball just trickled over the line. The cop went wild. Something like 2 million views worldwide. Everybody saw it. Everybody spoke about Notts County, said what a wonderful thing it was to do. Sadly, Roy passed away a little bit earlier this week. Our condolences to all his family. Welcome to everyone. Special welcome to Lee Brearley. Lee is a regular listener on the show. Believe it or not, he's on his honeymoon. And on his honeymoon on Monday evening, do you know what he was doing, Les? I better ask you rather than Chloe was. We'll get ourselves into trouble. Do you know what he was doing on his honeymoon on Monday evening?
No, I think I'll steer clear of this one.
Well, obviously, he was listening to the show, wasn't he? He was halfway around the world and he's got his iPad out and he's watching the show, and he apologized because he couldn't send the messages. But he is going to be watching it again tonight. So that's what he's doing on Wednesday night as well. There you go. Power of the show. Power of the show. Congratulations on reaching 1,000 subscribers. Well done, Paul, and all your guests. Yeah, it's gone up and down. Some of you crafty so-and-sos have obviously been registering to try and win the shirt and then deregistering. So we will be, I think it was about 998 when I last looked. It may well have just hit 1,000 again. We will be drawing that shirt and announcing that tomorrow. Andrew Hillman, well done on 1,000 viewers. So it looks like we have gone through that barrier. Right. Let's just try and simplify as best as we can the playoff permutations for Saturday and where we will be. We all hope it's a home playoff. There is only one set of results and one possible team we can play if we are not at home in a playoff. So the only away playoff that we can get is away to Wrexham. And the only way that can happen is if we lose at Bromley on Saturday and Wrexham win at Dagenham and Redbridge. Other than that set of circumstances, we will be at home. So you'll be a busy bee, Chloe, in the ticket office, in which case we would, but the runners and riders as to who we could be at home against is still fairly lengthy. It could be Wrexham, Chesterfield, Eastleigh, Bromley, or Halifax. We could play at home against any one of those teams. The playoffs would take place the following weekend. One is on a Saturday, one is on a Sunday. To my understanding, and I stand to be corrected here, I think they are being televised throughout all the playoffs. So that's where we are. David Howard, Pavis was a real character and loved by all Notts fans. Great times at the Lane, and hopefully same things are happening again. Bellum, how can I put myself in the raffle for the shirt, please? Just register free for our YouTube channel and then get 500 of your Sutton United mates to register as well. Only joking about the last bit. Right, Leslie. 3 games, unchanged team. You and I have had this debate many times this season, in which we understood that previously sports scientists would have a very big input into, is a player tiring, fatiguing, quite close to an injury, not sure we should be risking him. And there was a pretty high level of rotation among players. And, you know, a lot of people in the modern world would say you don't keep naming unchanged teams. Players, fatigue-wise, can't cope with it. So we're on our best run of the season. The last 3 games, unchanged team. For us geriatrics, there is at least, you know, some proof in old adages of football that some things don't change. And I think you've actually had a bit of a conversation with Ian Burchnall about this as well, haven't you? Just enlighten us a little bit.
Yeah, I've been fortunate to have a couple of chats with Ian, and if you remember, before the Torquay game, he allowed me to go down to the training ground and watch the training. And it was all positive stuff. It was about getting the ball forward in good attacking areas, down the left, down the right, and getting balls into the box. He's realised that at this level that we're playing at, that there are a lot of teams with big central defenders. And I saw that day where they were working on crossing the balls low into the box. And I think it's something that they've carried on doing, and they're starting to see the fruits of that. So it's no surprise to me that given time, those methods work. We're now seeing players on the front foot, and I played golf on Monday morning with a couple of Notts fans, and they're saying, isn't it wonderful when you go down and watch a game and you don't want it to end, instead of saying referee blow the whistle? And it was from start to finish. We look a handful now. We're in all areas of the pitch. We're positive. We're on the front foot. We're attacking. We're getting balls in the box. We scored 3 on Saturday. It could easily have been 8 or 9, couldn't it? And long may it continue. I'm not saying it will always be like that, but the players have got the bit between the teeth now. They look like they're happy, enjoying the football. And, you know, I've been talking to Mick Jones today, who was Neil Warnock's assistant, you know, and how successful his teams were going into the playoffs, in a similar situation to ours, that we're coming in at the end of it all. We're not right up there, and then just missing out. And we're talking about how the players, how Neil worked with the players and getting them relaxed, not training too hard before the playoff matches, switching them off, watching Chubby Brown videos. It was all about that, just getting them to forget about football before going into the big game. So, yeah, we're in a great position. And your point about keeping the same team, that's what I remember. That's what I remember from the successful days that I had. You know, if you played well, and particularly if I scored, I knew I was in the next match. So I've never really fully understood the situation with modern coaches and rotations. You know, to me, it's, if you've had a great win with a great performance, let them start again. And if you see people tired, well, take them off and put somebody on. That's my attitude.
But I think you did actually have a specific conversation with Ian, and he mentioned he's not afraid to play an unchanged team.
Oh no, no, not at all. That was yeah, that came out in conversation last week. Actually, I did say to him, you're sticking to the same. He says, yeah, if it's positive and they've done it, then I have a problem picking the same team again.
Very good. Chloe, busy day in the ticket office or busy morning. You were then able to join the remaining 4 and a bit thousand. What was it like to be back in the crowd?
Yeah, it was brilliant, to be fair. We was actually about 10 minutes late into the ground, but from where the ticket office is, you can hear the fans. So it was kind of a long wait I was in from about 8:30 in the morning. So it was a long wait to get to the 3 o'clock kickoff, but it was just so great to be back, and it did feel like a lot more. And it was nice to have a ground full of Notts fans, which we'd never had before. And especially with the win and the way that it went, it just couldn't have been a more perfect day back, really.
It's interesting because for just over 4,000, it felt like a lot more in the ground. Given that the capacity, well, the operational capacity of the stadium is just over 16, it felt like a lot more, and it felt, like a big time atmosphere.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, I could hear the crowd, and it was just that itching to get in there. But all game, they were superb, and it really felt like we were the 12th man, even though we probably pushed them to keep shooting, because I don't know how some of them didn't go in, to be honest. But we didn't get on their backs, and I think we carried them through really well. And it's only going to help getting that home tie as well. But yeah, it was just great to be back.
Les, you've witnessed Notts playing behind inverted commas closed doors this season. Was there one abiding memory of Saturday for you, having sampled quite a few of the games, not all, but quite a few at Meadow Lane, in front of no one, and then being back on Saturday?
Well, it happened for me before that. I was privileged to be asked to go to the Sutton game. They're top of the league. And we've taken the lead twice and then got pegged back, and then 20 minutes to go, we've got a man sent off, 2-2. You think, can we hang on? Not only do we hang on, we don't look like we've lost a player, and we go on and win the game. And I think, crikey, this is starting to click here. And then following that, 2 away matches, 4 goals, and we're rolling. And then a tough game at Wrexham. And yeah, that was just the icing on the cake for me. And I was a little nervy, probably like players, that the crowd's coming back and how they're going to react to it. There's a lot of players there that had not witnessed the Notts County fans in attendance, and I haven't had the chance to talk to them. I'm looking forward to speaking to them just to see how they found Saturday. But I was in there early, and just as the players come out, the noise that the crowd made, and I looked at the players, and they were loving it. And I'm sure that the two worked hand in hand for 90 minutes and took Notts County through for another 3 points. And that needs to happen in every game that we're playing now. And hopefully we finish at Bristol and it can happen again.
Okay, so as a result of Eastleigh drawing with Altrincham, take some of the cloud away from who we will be playing in those playoffs. It's certainly, as they say, in our hands. Chloe, fans' perspective, how important that we don't go to Wrexham and that we are at home against any one of those other 5 teams?
I just think it's vital. I think especially if we do win on Saturday, obviously, or even a draw, to stay unbeaten, I think that also helps with the momentum. Obviously, if we do win or draw, that secures having fans in. So you just need to keep that momentum going. And then you saw how the fans reacted to them on last weekend, and you'll see the exact same thing again. And I think a lot of times this season, a lot of teams have come down to Meadow Lane. There's been no fans. They've got one goal, one focus, and that's been on the game. That's a completely different story when all sides of the ground are covered by Notts fans. And every single decision, the Notts fans, whether they think it's a penalty, whether they think it's a sending off or not, they'll get behind the ref. And that all sorts of stuff like that helps. It gives the players confidence to shoot a lot of the time, and it'll definitely help. And no one wants to be watching that game on their laptops, on their TVs again. We've done that all season. But I just think that with a game that's it is important for us Saturday. Obviously, we've already got the playoffs, but it's not something where we can go and sit back and go, well, we've done our job. It's vital that we get that point on Tuesday, and if not all three. And I think it helps a little bit that there's something on the game for both teams, because maybe if they go for it, that leaves them open up a little bit for us. So it could definitely go one of two ways. Both teams should be up for it, and yeah, hopefully it'll be a good game.
Couple of people picking up on the unchanged team and some thoughts about the use of substitutions by Ian. Andy Newham, good to see the consistency in unchanged teams, but IB does make full use of the 3 subs every week to very good effect, especially when NZO starts running at tired legs. Trevor Scanlon, I particularly like that Ian is not afraid to make a change in a match, whether it be the 20th or 30th minute, if he's not happy with the way things are going, no matter how early it is. Les, so Chloe was talking there about the dynamic of Meadow Lane with fans in. We've spoken on the show before. You are an opposition team. You turn up. For many of the players at this level, it is the equivalent of Wembley. I'm reminded of when we had Martin Tyler, the Sky Sports commentator, on the show. True story. Where he was commentating with Gary Neville on a Sky game, and when he learned that Woking had been promoted, his actual first comment to Gary Neville was, "Wow, we will be going to Notts County next season." And that is the Sky Sports commentator doubles up as the assistant manager of Woking. And when Woking were promoted out of National League South to the National League Main Division, that was his first comment to Gary Neville. So that kind of tells you how much players, officials enjoy coming to Meadow Lane. Clearly, without fans, sometimes that can, we spoke about it, helping the opposition. How does the dynamic change if you're an opposition team coming to Meadow Lane, like Weymouth did, with 4,000 or 5,000 fans, all Notts fans?
Yeah, it's completely the opposite. I believe that teams have come to Meadow Lane in the past 2 seasons with an empty stadium, and it's been, wow, look at this pitch. I mean, you saw the pitch on Saturday, and that's probably better than pitches in that league come August time. It was fantastic, and they'll look round, and probably not like Wembley, but it will be one of the best grounds that they're going to play on. And to go and play on there with no crowd backing the home team, it's a big plus factor. So coming out on Saturday, and as I say, it would have been a little bit nervy for the Notts lads, because a lot of them hadn't experienced that. Some had. You've seen Kyle Wootton, and I'm pretty sure Kyle did a lot better than he had. I'm not saying that he hasn't been playing well, but he misses the crowds. He loves the fans. He loves the roar of the crowd. That gets him going, and he had a wonderful game on Saturday. As did most of the players. So that is great going into the playoffs. That with that backing in there, they can perform. And for me, as I say, any one of those players could have been man of the match. And when you've got that, you've got a team on a high. You're going to be favourites.
For my money, Chloe, we're at Bromley Saturday. For my money, Bromley are probably the best team we have played while we've been going on this good run. I thought it was a very nip and tuck game. Clearly, their manager has got them at it as well. A 96th minute winner. Listening to Ian Burchnall's interview on Notts County TV today, Ian says we're going there to win it. expects an open game. Clearly, with the way it's structured, Bromley have to win. A draw will not be good enough for them. They have to win. But for me, I think it's a very stiff test Saturday.
Yeah, I completely agree. We speak about, obviously, that was the draw in our recent game, but I do think we could have easily won that game as well. As much as it was a difficult game, we could have won. So I think, like Ian says, you've got to go in with that winning mentality. Even though we've done half of the job and we've secured playoffs, it's important that we go out with the mindset of this game still means something. We still could do with winning this game, secure that home tie, and take the momentum into the playoffs as well. And I mentioned previously that it might help in a way that the other side's also got something on the game. It makes it open. We like to be able to play football rather than, the lumping it up front and playing the long ball. We don't do it very often. So we prefer teams to come at us a little bit and give us that space that we need. So it could help, it could hinder. It's either way, it's going to be a difficult game, but just go in the mindset of it means something. And I'm sure if we play like we did on Saturday and how we have been doing, I don't think anyone wants to play against us. So hopefully we'll get the result that we want.
Difficult, Les, as a professional, to turn the tap on and off, isn't it? When you've got a good run, sometimes clubs might strategically rest a load of players and just prepare for a game, 2 games time. Clearly, that's not happening this Saturday anyway, because we need to cement that home playoff. But as a pro, it's not always easy to switch on and off. Notts will be very much at it on Saturday, yeah?
It's impossible to switch on and off. You work on that training ground and on a match day to get where the manager, the coach wants you to be. And that takes a lot of hard work. And when you start to bear the fruits, as we have done over recent games, every player knows exactly what they're doing when they're going out there. And that's not just been a coincidence that what we've been watching from these players. And as I say, they know exactly what they've got to do, each and every player. And if they fall short of that, I don't think Ian will have any hesitation in making a change. The players now know that it works, it's successful. They've seen it against the top teams in the division. So why change? Why would you want to play any other way than what you are doing now? Get on, do it, get the game won, and move on to the next one. That will be the mentality through the manager and all of the players.
Les, as an ex-pro, what do you think has changed? What's changed from the? What do you think has changed, Les, from where the club was struggling to get a result? There was a lot of anxiety. There was a lot of frustration. And now there's huge momentum. I know, clearly, if we knew exactly what had changed, we'd all do. But what do you see has contributed to this turnaround?
Yeah, the biggest change for me has been we've gone from a possession team where we were keeping the ball and possibly frightened to make a pass that may be 50-50, 60-40. So we were keeping the ball. But I didn't think we were disturbing teams. I'm talking generally watching matches at Meadow Lane. Teams were coming here and I think we're coping quite well with our possession game. We've changed now that we like to keep it, but if we see a ball on forward quickly, we move it forward, and it's I think the players are enjoying the way that we're playing now because we are creating chances in doing that. That's been possibly the biggest change to me.
Chloe, any thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree. We can speak about factors like Michael Doyle coming in, and none of it's a coincidence. And I don't think there's one factor that specifically says this is the reason that it's changed. But yeah, just to echo what Les says, we've now got confidence behind us. And you can see with the balls that are being played, we weren't doing that. We were afraid to do that. And I quite like that you don't really know what we're going to do next. We change it up. So we cross into the box, we try and play it into the box to the feet. The long ball that was from Calvin Miller to Jim O'Brien, we tried the long ball over the top. So I don't think teams really know who to mark anymore, because maybe we've been quite, like before, it's easy to stick two men on, I don't know, Rodriguez or Wotton. But now you put two men on one of our players, someone else who is just as good is now free. So I don't think teams know how to play or defend against us anymore, which is just a bonus to us. And I think we've just got a lot of different things in our pockets that can come out at any point of the game.
Ian Baggett says the biggest change is keeping it simple by playing with the same system every game. Consistent team selection and performances. Trevor Scanlon says if we can get 3 points, just imagine the boost it will give the players in the playoffs. Ian Burchnall, the fan, not the manager. Kyle was involved in all 3 goals Saturday and shows his worth to the team. RM volunteers. Players are braver on the ball. Kelvin Miller has made a big difference taking players on. I want to come back for the last 15, 20 minutes of the show onto Saturday. I just want to take a little bit of time to reflect on Derek Pavis, who passed away 4 years ago. Together with his predecessor, Jack Dunnett, they would not even arguably be the 2 most successful chairmen in the history of the club for the past 100 years. They both took the club from the lower divisions of English football into the top flight of English football. Les, you go back a long way with Derek. What did you make of him?
Oh, lots of stories about Derek, really. Couple from the money saving side. He emphasised the fact that he wanted money to spend on players, and we had to save money however we could. In those days, it was cheaper to make telephone calls, bearing in mind there was no mobiles then, after 10:30. So we were not allowed to make outgoing calls before 10:30. We had
the club. Alex Ferguson's rung you up. You can't. We'll ring you back at 10:31.
There were also notes under every light switch that when you left the room, if you were the last person to switch the light off. It's wonderful. Yeah. And from a personal side, when Derek came in, I was doing some work as a summariser on Radio Trent with Tony Delahunty.
Yes. Yeah.
You remember those days?
I used to do commentary. Absolutely, I remember those days.
Okay, so we're playing at Rotherham, and there's 5 minutes to go, and the score's 0-0, and Tony Delahunty puts a mic under my mouth. Well, Les, what do you think Neil Warnock's thinking about now? And I said, well, I think he's probably making a change, see if we can get a goal here. And the game finished 0-0. And on the Monday, I went into work and the phone rang and it was Derek. Can you come over to my office? So I walked over to his office, opened the door, and he pointed at me and said, "You want to work for Notts County or do you want to work for Radio Trent?" He says, "I don't want Neil Warnock ringing me on a Sunday when I'm having my dinner, telling me that you're suggesting how he runs the team." So, point taken, I held my hands up, said sorry, and that was the end of my career with Radio Trent.
Yeah, he was an archetypal chairman figure, wasn't he? The fedora, sheepskin coat, huge cigar, and he was a caricature of that persona, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was wonderful. But I must say that he supported Neil financially. he sold players as well, but he also backed the manager with some good signings as well. Might have been strange at the time, but yeah, certainly backed him there. He did feel that possibly taking Notts County up to the top level was maybe a league too far. I think he felt that the gates would really increase. He thought we'd get over 20,000 on a regular basis, you know, playing in Division 1, and it didn't quite get that far, did it? It was probably, you know, it's a few thousand short. In those days, obviously, the money was all self-generated by the home team, wasn't it? There was no big sponsorships in those days and TV money. So it was very difficult, but he did a fantastic job for Notts County Football Club.
As I say, Chloe, your granddad, your dad would remember him very well. Clearly, you're too young. His legacy ultimately to the club, you sit in it every home game. You know, that stadium is down entirely to Derek Pavis. You'll have seen the old photographs, the Victorian ramshackle stands with the corrugated iron bent over the top. You know, that was Notts when they played in the top flight under Howard Wilkinson and Jimmy Cyril. It was an unbelievable transformation, and the club should be very, very grateful to him for what he's done, because that stadium now is effectively, and we're a million miles off it, but it's effectively, even to this day, 25 years after he built it, it's Premier League ready. It's Premier League ready.
Yeah, and I think everyone can be proud of it, and all the players need to know kind of the importance that it is to play at Meadow Lane, and it's not just another ground, and it's got the history, and to be a fan and just, it's kind of, we take it for granted, I think, a lot. You just, because you go down, well, obviously before the pandemic, every weekend it's just like, this is home. But you know, when we got relegated to the National League, it really hit home. And it was like we were going to away games that could hold a couple of thousand. And you think, we take this many fans on an away day, and this is your whole ground, and you come back to Meadow Lane, and it does make you realise how important it is. And I did get the privilege to actually meet him on passing when I've kind of been for meals at the club a few years ago. So I'm grateful to have obviously met him. But yeah, it is definitely a legacy. And I think everyone is very proud who works there, who supports the club, players, managers, anyone that is any relation to the club definitely knows that.
Ian Burchnall, Mr. Pavis, what a fabulous chairman. Look at the stadium he has left us, his legacy. Balham, R.I.P. Derek. Building Meadow Lane, for those that can remember it, Lassie, it was kind of like one of those sort of like eighth wonders of the world, because he put 3 stands up in the space of 3 months in the summer. He built 3 stands in 3 months, took the other 3 down and put up. It was an unbelievably well executed piece of engineering. And I think when we go round to other league clubs now, Les, Grimsby perhaps is one that immediately springs to mind. Old, antiquated Victorian ground, hemmed in by houses, desperately in need of something doing to it. And Meadow Lane ultimately was like that. And there are many other clubs in that position that Grimsby are to this day. Phenomenal, you know, aside from the finance, phenomenal achievement that Derek made there.
It was wonderful, as you say. The three sides went up very quickly, and I believe that they were covered by grants. Money was required to build the Derek Pavis stand, the Old Maiden stand, and he did that through selling a couple of players, Craig Short and Tommy Johnson, and then creating the Vice President's initiative, Vice President's package, which worked really well. So yeah, he had the hindsight to know what it was all about with money investment, and yeah, we've got a wonderful stadium because of it, haven't we?
We have. The Karen Brady, you will obviously know of Karen Brady, Chloe. There's a famous story, and when I did my book, it was one that I wanted to get to the bottom of. So Karen Brady, in her very, very early days, was chief executive of Birmingham, and she was going out with, engaged to, not quite sure the state of the relationship at that point, with one of the Birmingham City players, Paul Pesci-Solido. Notts County played Birmingham. Karen came out after that game and said, I was kicked out of the boardroom, no women allowed in the boardroom, you know, Derek Pavis, sexist, all the rest of it. And so I wanted to get to the bottom of the story. And so when I went round to see Derek and his family for the interview for the book, which I was very grateful for doing, I said, come on, tell me what actually happened. And he said it was nothing like Karen made it out to be. He said Karen came into the boardroom. He said she was absolutely entitled to be in the boardroom. There wasn't a ban on women or anything like that. He said, but what she was doing, she was ordering drinks, and then she was going out the boardroom and giving the drink to Paul Pesci-Solido, who wasn't in the Birmingham team that day, but was in his tracksuit. He was stood outside on the landing. She was getting drinks from the bar, taking them out through the door and giving them to Paul outside. And of course, Derek took umbrage at this. You know, you shouldn't be taking drinks out of the bar. They had a bit of a, shall we say, disagreement over it all. And Derek didn't think any more of it. But Karen, being Karen, sort of, embellished it a little bit in the national media, because this was a big story in all the national newspapers on the Monday. And so when I got it checked out, because you have to give people the right of reply, and Charlie Sale of the Daily Mail rang Karen up when the book was coming out to put the allegations to her. And very interestingly, she didn't deny it. She just said, oh, I have a rather different recollection of that. But she didn't deny it. That's the key thing. When offered to deny it, she didn't deny it. But Derek did get pelters for that one at the time, didn't he, Les?
Yeah, I can remember the papers particularly following that. I wasn't, I was working at the club, but wasn't around at that time to know about it. But I thought it was, he did have a director's room, and it was predominantly men as far as I was aware, but there was a ladies' room as well. It wasn't that they couldn't go. That's how it operated at Notts County. The ladies went in the ladies' room and men into the boardroom, because I don't think there were any ladies chief executives at that time or directors at that time.
Yeah, different era, Chloe, different era. Trevor Scanlon, I remember standing on the cop under the old scoreboard before Derek built this superb stadium. Absolutely, I remember that. You see the old photographs of the scoreboard. It was the only place on the cop, if it rained, where you could stand and you wouldn't get wet, because it was completely open. Dale Pikett, I remember Mr. Pavis, I didn't know this one, paying for all the Notts fans to get in at Southend on a Friday night game, as they were charging extortionate prices, and he didn't like it. Well, I suppose you and I, Les, remember Derek for being fairly frugal with certain things, but obviously he loosened his wallet to get a few Notts fans in at Southend, by the sounds of that one.
I've not heard that one before.
Probably only top 7.
Derek never threw the money about, but yeah.
But I mean, look, in summing up, it's a very thankless task being a chairman, isn't it, Les? Jack Dunnett worked miracles, and Derek worked miracles, and there are sections of our supporters, who even now, are very begrudging in the praise, and you'll probably be looking very perplexed, Chloe, that hang on, this is a chairman that took Notts County out of the 3rd tier of English football and plonked them in the top flight, so that your season ticket bought you home games against Liverpool, Manchester United, Nottingham Forest, Arsenal, Chelsea, as opposed to no disrespect, Maidenhead, Bromley, Barrow last season, or what other teams we have been playing, and you know, I hope that people continue to support Alexander and Christoph, because no matter how much success you achieve, it's relatively thankless, isn't it, Les? Relatively thankless.
I often think what's in the minds of people that acquire football clubs, because, as you say, it is a thankless task, and it's ongoing thankless, because if you do get to develop a winning football team that gets promoted, then it requires further investment, which the supporters will expect you to do, because they want you to move on out of that level into the next level. Yeah, it is people that take over football clubs and invest the money in them. They've got a thankless task, and I do thank the two owners for coming into Notts County, because they have been absolutely faultless for me so far, and the way that they've dealt with the running of the football club.
Here's one for you, and we'll ask both of you. Chloe, you get to go first. Euro lottery this week, right? You win. You win 40 million. Okay, that's right. Have another sip of your vodka and tonic. You win 40 million. Would you buy Notts County?
It's very easy to say yes, isn't it? But I dread to think what you have to go through and how much money you actually need. Is 40 million ever enough for a football club? I just don't know. I'd love to.
Yes or a no?
I'd love to, if I ever had the opportunity. Don't get me wrong. It must be the most amazing feeling as a fan, but I don't think I could bring it on myself. I think if we're talking a few 100 million, yeah. When money's no option, it's a bit easier. Yeah, you can just throw money at it, but 40 million, I think you've got a big job on your hands. But
That's
yeah.
a no from Chloe. Leslie, 40 million. Would you buy Notts County?
I'd buy Notts County if I got 3 million. Would I buy Notts County? There's interesting concepts going on in football now, with and we've seen the way that the success that Brentford have had. It's not that many years ago that they were battling away in the old fourth division. It was the second division, I think, in those days down there. How many years ago? Struggling, and they've run their club similar to how our owners are coming in and running Notts County. Barnsley have done something similar. So I'm not sure how much money is needed to run a football club. We've certainly seen that it doesn't work by just throwing money at it. You can have a lot of money, and that money can go very quickly unless it's used properly. But no, I think if I had a lot of money, then I would like to take ownership. Yeah.
If I won 40 million, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Yeah, but here's the but, and I've had conversations with Mick Jones and other people about this. And you and I have had a conversation. I think to buy a club of the size of Notts County, you've got to have 20 million, okay, and be prepared to lose 20 million quid. Now, some people will say, "Oh, yeah, don't be stupid. You know, we'll break even or lose £200,000 a year." It don't work like that. because of the sums of money involved. Notts' playing budget this year, best part will have been the best part of £2 million. Because of the pandemic, Notts will have lost the best part of £2 million this year. So there ain't no way you'll be selling Notts County to, unless it's me or you, Les, that wins 40 million on the lottery. So then you've got to work out the losses for the following season, and so on and so on and so on. I am told Mel Morris at Derby County has lost 60 million quid. Lost 60 million pounds. And you know what? He's losing hundreds of thousands of pounds, if not £1 million, every month right now, with very little hope of selling it on to anyone. So there are huge sums of money involved. And I think it's a good point you raised, Les. What possesses people to buy a football club? Can be ego, a lot of the time. But I think you have to be worth substantial sums of money, because you've got to be prepared to lose a lot of money. And like you said, Les, you get a bit of success, you can very rarely bank any of that money that comes your way, because people then say, right, well, we're now at this level, we need to get on to the next level. And then and of course, the sums of money that you're talking about are huge. But it's interesting. It's interesting. Ian Burchnall, I would definitely buy Notts if I won the lottery and keep Ian Burchnall as manager for the confusion factor. Brian Morphus quotes an old one: if you want to make a small fortune from football, start with a large one. Okay, that's spoken at length about Derek. Quick word on Roy Prentice. Chloe, do you remember that video from a couple of seasons ago?
Yeah, I definitely remember it. And it's great that we can be a club that can kind of do that for someone, and that will, and his family, they'll remember that forever. And it's just, it might seem like such a small thing, but to them it'll be huge. So I'm glad we got the opportunity to do that for him.
Yeah, it was brilliant, wasn't it, Les? Brilliant.
I was out on the pitch that day, and to see his face when he put the ball in the net, and he says, it's always been my dream, Les, to score Meadow Lane, and just shook his hand. He was just he said it's the greatest moment of my life. Wonderful.
And that's the power of football, isn't it? It's the power of Notts County. If you're a Notts County fan, I mean, some of my clients in America, Major League Soccer, NFL, the American Football League, they're all emailing me on Monday saying, "Oh, we've just watched this fantastic video from your football club called Notts County, and this is wonderful. How did you come across this? How did you get it so that the ball just went over the line?" And they were all convinced it had been photoshopped and everything, because it couldn't have been crafted any better if you'd had like a professional film crew doing it. The way he's hit that ball and he's just gone over the line, and then you see this delayed reaction from all the fans going up. Wonderful piece, and demonstrates the power of football and the power of our football club. So our best wishes to Roy's family. And it may well be that with high tech in all the various burial and cremation services, I wonder whether that will be somehow beamed in the chapel, on the while they're sitting down. It'd be a good one. And all joking aside, here's one for you, Les. We might be having a penalty shootout in a playoff game. Seriously, I'd have a clip of that. And I'd show all the players before the penalty shootout and say, look at this. This guy, 92, dying wish, scored at Meadow Lane with the penalty. Go on, lads. Go and win the penalty shootout. Just a little bit of kidology and that sort of thing, What do you reckon?
Oh, it could be a way of getting them relaxed before they took a penalty. I'm not sure. But, I would imagine that Ian will be thinking along the lines of, if it comes to penalties, who's taking them? That won't be left to chance on the day. So I'm pretty sure a lot of that will be going on the training ground.
Let's get back to contemporary action. Bromley Saturday. The other games to recap are Dagenham Wrexham, Halifax Chesterfield, Solihull Eastleigh, Bromley Notts, Hartlepool Weymouth, those that affect us. From everyone's perspective at the club, if we get a home game, we clearly want as many, possibly a few more, into Meadow Lane. It would appear that everything seemed to go very, very smoothly, and certainly all the fans around me were very well behaved, Chloe, and everybody kind of understood the importance of doing it properly first game back in.
Yeah, it was definitely important because we've seen a lot of like the Premier League games, and you kind of see a lot of people standing next to each other, and you think there's no way that that's supposed to happen. But I think everyone understood that, look, this is the first game back, and if we do kind of as we're supposed to, we'll be allowed exactly the same if we do get that home fixture. So it was great to see, because I know a lot of people at the club, not me, just me included, there's a lot of people behind the scenes that did a lot of work to get as many fans as they possibly could. So it was great that everyone was able to stick to it, and everyone enjoyed.
Okay, Chloe, you just broke up a little bit, but I'm sure we'll be fine. Another subject point raised by Ian Burchnall, Leslie, and then we'll come to Chloe. What's your thoughts on the news about the academy? I think a lot of people were kind of fearing the worst. The worst from a perspective of the academy would be downsized fairly significantly. Jason Turner's announcement earlier this week would suggest that it is going to continue in broadly the similar format. Pleased about that?
I'm over the moon. I must admit that I was concerned, particularly with the model that we have, with the data from the owner's business, on players and managers and teams, and you wonder whether it's needed. But obviously, they do feel that there's a huge factor with local youngsters given the opportunity to come through the ranks and be part of their community club. And I just think it's wonderful that they're financially backing the academy, and it can go on, and wonderful for everybody.
Chloe?
Yeah, it's definitely important to keep it going. I kind of also feared the worst. I think we made a sign into one of the under-18s, and I thought, oh, maybe that's kind of the news that none of us wanted, that maybe it's going to become small, or I don't know what was going to happen. But with the news, obviously, that came out, it's just great to have kind of behind the scenes keep going, because I think they won their league this year, they're under-18, so it can only help. And one of them, you never know, one of them can come through the rankings. We've had it before, and it's always great to have that there in the background working away. It can only help in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an extremely positive step, for which I am sure, all very grateful to the owners, because clearly it's going to be costing them even more money. It is instantly going to be putting in the short term, an additional six-figure loss onto the accounts next year. But I think looking, more holistically, whether it can start to help and reduce, the budget that you have for loan players. I've had many conversations with people, and clearly you do not just want to bring in or develop young players and give them a contract for the sake of it. But I think sometimes that analogy is a little unfair, Les, because if you look, not just this season, but for many seasons, the club has brought in large numbers of loan players. And for every George Grant and Ryan Yates, there has probably been 5 per good signing that hasn't worked out. You can think this year of Kenton Richardson, 45 minutes, Tyler Gold and Salford. We bring a lot of loan players in that have very limited scope. And certainly my view would be, if you're going to have a player and hardly play him, better to have someone from your own youth system then it costs you more money. And sometimes it's all about getting a chance and surprising people. You know, at Leicester City, Gary Lineker, when he was 17, was massively borderline at Leicester City as to whether they offered him a contract. A real 50-50 call. They were, shall we release him? Shall we not? Do we give him another year? Not really sure. You know, the rest is history. You know, and there would, you know, Harry Kane at Tottenham did very little at Tottenham in their youth team. You know, farmed out on loan everywhere, got a chance, proved everyone wrong. And I think as fans, Les, we always want to see players that have come through a system develop. And I have been very encouraged. People have said to me that Ian Burchnall, the head coach, was actively down watching those young players playing and helping to evaluate who should be kept on. And there have been concerns, I think, that previous managers before Ian, and I use it in the plural, have very, very rarely come and watch the young players. And I do hope that clearly this is a huge step in the right direction, but I hope we can have more of a tangible pathway for the young players coming through the system to get a crack at being involved in the first team, because there's been pressure for a little while now, Les.
Well, in my younger days, there was always 3 or 4 youngsters, local products that made their way through to the first team, and they were they let you know what it meant to feel like to play for the club. That was part of the DNA of the team. Nowadays, I mean, you go back over recent times at Notts County over the last few years, and we have been producing players, but they've gone before they've played 1 or 2 games. That's the problem at this level. If a youngster shines and comes through, they've gone. Can't think of the names now. There was a lad who went to Wolves, another one went to Tottenham, didn't they? And
we lost a young lad, 15-year-old, to Forest earlier this year. He was kept quiet, but we lost a young lad to Forest as well. Yeah.
Well, that's all I'm saying. You know, do they get the opportunity of playing in the first team? You know, there are so many people now covering matches, not just at first team level. They're covering the youth team, the senior development, and you know, at the level that we're playing at now, if a player has got any ability, he'll be gone somewhere else higher up the level, won't he? That's the problem.
But you do hope, with all the data and the video analysis of players at National League North, National League South, in the other English leagues, you know, one thing we absolutely know about as well, you know, your homegrown players, and Ian Burcham has made this point, you know, you see, though, your homegrown players every day of the week, you also understand their characters a lot more as well, you know, because so far as I am aware, there is no data metric at this moment in time that measures a player's character, because that's important.
No, that's one thing that it doesn't give you. And that's why managers like Brian Clough, like Jimmy Cyril, went round and talked to these people before they signed them to find out whether they got the right DNA to come and play for their team.
Yeah. Joe Johnson, I wasn't aware of this. I had a ticket Saturday, set off and got caught up in the tram chaos. Was stuck between Highbury Vale and David Lane at 2:40, so turned around and went home. Some others on the tram did the same. Here's another one. I noticed off Ollie Bayliss' Twitter today, ZO. The National League Board, there was a vote of no confidence, and it wasn't carried. And by and large, the clubs in National League North and South voted in favour of the resolution, i.e. to support the vote of no confidence. No club in our division, the National Division, voted in favour of it. They all voted against, and there were 2 abstentions. Might be interesting to hear what Nott's thoughts and views, observations were on that. Clearly, the chairman for most of that time, Brian Barwick, has already announced his intention to step down. Whether this was all part of a quid pro quo for the bigger clubs not to vote through the vote of no confidence. I was a bit surprised, Les, by that. There's clearly more to it than meets the eye. But, you know, I think this is, by and large, a season to forget for the National League board, and I'm not sure how any of them can continue in any office of power next season.
No, I agree with you on that one, Paul, and I think this decision that you've just been talking about is just to test the water. I don't think that there will be big changes. I'm pretty sure of it.
Yeah, you would certainly like to think so. David Fells adds another player that we've lost out of our youth system, Jack Bean, who's doing well in the Liverpool, I'm sure it's under 21, under 23 teams as well. We're coming up to the hour mark. I'm sure lots of us want to be watching Villarreal and Manchester United, which kicks off more or less as we are speaking. Chloe, will you be dialing into the stream on Saturday?
Yeah, I'll be there like every week. So just hoping for that, even a point, just take us to that home fixture. That's what I'm hoping for.
Right. Okay. I hesitate to bring these up. Chloe, you know what I'm going to bring up next, don't you?
Yeah.
Yes. Right. So on the show, Leslie, we've introduced a forfeit. Yeah. If we get to Ashton Gate and we win, so we get back in the Football League, and all our guests have to volunteer a forfeit. Yeah. So Lee Curtis is going to have his head shaved, because you know what his hair's like. So he's going to have his head shaved.
No good me doing that then, is it?
That one rules you out. I would advise you not to do what I've volunteered as well. Do you remember Gary Lineker when Leicester won the Premier League?
Go on.
Match of the day.
Oh, yeah.
Presented it in his Leicester City underpants. So
yeah.
if we get up, I will present this show, the after show, the party show, in a pair of Notts County underpants. Right? So you've got to be thinking what yours is. So Chloe's come up with a forfeit. I hope I don't get into trouble with her parents, a dad, a granddad. What is your... We've not 100% signed this one off yet, to be fair. But what are you thinking about as a forfeit, Chloe?
So I've actually run it past people, and they think it's quite funny. So depending what foot gets the winning goal, if it goes off the head, I'm choosing a foot. That I'll get a tattoo of either a magpie or the day or the number of the goal scorer on whichever foot scores the winning goal.
There you go, Les. Stop that one. Are you going to have a tattoo? Have you got any
tattoos? Yeah, not something that... no, what would...
Well, have a think, because we'll have you back on. You've got. You'll be back on next week. But have a think as a forfeit, and anybody else out there.
How about you put that question to the people that's listening in now to come up with a forfeit for me?
Okay, so everyone that's watching, listening, come up with a forfeit for Les. Okay, come up with a forfeit for Les. Keep, this is
and I'll let you choose the one, Paul.
I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll let Tim or Simon, your lads, choose the forfeit. How about
all right?
Yeah,
okay.
We'll let them choose the forfeit. They'll know. Ian Burchnall, Chloe to drink a bottle of vodka on the show. Already done that tonight. Predictions wise, Mick Dundee, Notts to win 3-0. What do we reckon Saturday, Chloe?
Well, I think you originally asked me quite a few weeks ago when I predicted all of them, and I think
you've done pretty well, to be fair.
Yeah, my results have been right in a couple of them in a different order, but I had us down to not lose, and we've done that so far. I think originally I went for a draw, but with the form that we're in, I think I might go with 1-0, and I think we might just tip it.
Les, will we maintain the unbeaten run going into the playoffs?
Yes. I don't think that Bromley can change their way of playing. If they do, I think it will make life a little easier for us if they go and try and attack us. I think they'll keep to the what they do best and get balls into the box, and I think it'll be a very tight game. And I'll be quite happy with the draw, to be honest. Over the moon with a win, don't get me wrong, but yeah, it's going to be a tough game. But the pressure is on Bromley, isn't it? And when you put that pressure into the mix, sometimes players don't perform like they have been doing. So the pressure's off us. We're there. We obviously want a home game next, so we won't want to lose. But yeah, I'm looking at a draw or a win.
Okay. I think I went to a draw a few weeks ago. I'm sticking with a draw. On the face of it, you think, how can it be a draw? Because Bromley are clearly going to go win or bust. I think it's a big ask to win there because I think they're a decent. I think they'll get beat by them because they would possibly concern me more than any other team that we might play at home. So I think it is important we don't get beat, and I'll stick with my earlier prediction of a draw. I think a bit of momentum, keep that unbeaten run going into the playoffs. Home leg, week to prepare, and I think job will be a good one. Just before finishing, keep an eye out on our social media channels over the next 24, 48 hours. One, to work out who is going to get this shirt. Remember, subscribe, free, red button somewhere on one of the corners. Click on that to enter and just let us know which one of those two shirts you would like. We're also going to have the Golden Magpies. You've heard of the Golden Globes. The Golden Magpies, the Magpie Circle regular season awards, various categories. Best player, young player, goal of the season, one or two others as well. So we'll be announcing details of that. Your chance to vote on those online on Twitter in the coming days. We will be announcing those winners next season. I'm not really sure, Chloe, why we're going to have a goal of the season award. I mean, we might as well just have, goal of the season across all professional football leagues in the world, haven't we? And Eli will win it. So, but anyway, we will go through the process. Les, thank you very much indeed for joining us, as always. You don't know what you've let yourself in for on the forfeit. I'm sure if no one else comes up with something, Simon or Tim will come up with something for you. Crikey. Okay. Chloe, just get the sign off on your tattoo. Now it's public domain. Thank you for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you all again next week when we will be gripped. Well, we will be, won't we? I'm not sure who will be playing, but we will be gripped by playoff fever. Thank you all again for watching and listening in, and we look forward to seeing you very, very soon. Thank you. Good night.